Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print-on-demand industry and equip you with the tools, advice, and strategy you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now, on to this week's show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast. As always, this is Josiah, and I am joined by Travis Ross. Travis, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Doing well. How are you doing?
You know, busy, but that is the nature of the impending doom of Q4. Not doom in a good way. You know what I mean? Like it's that point where you don't know what to do with yourself. You're so busy, but it's a good problem to have for sure.
Yeah. How are we making time to do this call? I guess it's because it's before the impending doom, or the doom is still
right.
impending.
Right. Yeah. And it's close to 8 o'clock. I try and set good, healthy boundaries and stop working at 8 o'clock at night. So I don't know if that's
Smart
healthy
man.
or it's a boundary of sorts, I guess. So, hey man, I'm excited to be on this call. It feels like it's been a minute since we've been able to at least over Skype. We've been in person a handful of times, but now we're back on Skype and you're in your nice little, animated spaceship laboratory. I'm not too sure what's happening behind him.
You should put a background on. It's more interesting for our listeners.
Question mark? We don't know. Speaking of interesting and speaking of Q4 that's coming, there is a piece of news that has hit that is very pertinent, very important to those of us that are going to be sending stuff through the mail. And that is going to be this week's Point of Interest.
The point of interest, baby. Oh, yeah. Groovy.
All right, Travis. So let the people know what is happening with the United States Postal Service and their prices. What's going on there?
Yeah. So I believe this episode is going to drop on the 21st. So you may have already seen this, but on starting October 18th, the post office did a temporary postage rate increase, which is not new, or it's not normal. They typically just increase, like once a year, and it's just an increase. In fact, they did one in January of 2020. But I think, then all of a sudden COVID hit, and, you combine a lot of their workers probably not feeling safe and perhaps quitting or whatever, and just the difficulty in hiring. And then you combine that with the just online, the glut of sales that have happened online in 2020 because people can't go to the stores, and you've got pretty much the perfect storm for the post office. And so I think, it makes sense that they're raising their rates to kind of mitigate as best they can and be able to hire, because obviously these 3 months are the biggest months of the year for everybody in online sales, and obviously for the delivery people too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a little bit of information here, actually. This is from stamps.com. Maybe we can drop the link in the show notes if people are interested in actually finding this information themselves or kind of reading over it. But as Travis said, the increases happened at 12:01 a.m. October 18th, and they will last until the day after Christmas, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're wondering how long these increases are happening, as Travis said, the increase in January.
In case you need to, deliver or go take a piece of mail to the post office at 11:58. Just wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yeah, the Christmas gift is late anyway at that point, really. Just save it for a New Year's present or something. That's a thing. So it's going to be till the day after Christmas. It's a temporary increase on top of the increases in January that were implemented. So now you're going to see first class packages, which is essentially, a single T-shirt, a mug, something like that. It's pretty probably the common type of package you'll be sending, or I know that we send as well. So there's going to be an average increase of 7% during the 2020 holiday period. It's going to go to $2.99. It was previously $2.74. And priority mail is going to go to $7.42, previously at $7.02. And that's a pretty significant hike. So what's your advice, and what are you, I guess let me ask you, what's your strategy with this increase? Are you going to look at increasing shipping from your independent sites? I know Amazon's a different thing, Amazon Prime, of course, but if you're selling seller fulfilled, if you're selling stuff from a third party site that you own, that's your own brand, what's your strategy to offset, if anything, the cost of this rate increase?
Yeah, I wish I had a good, solution, but
sure.
I really don't. I mean, it's kind of par for the course when you're shipping with, USPS. They seem to raise their rates,
sure.
Like I said before, every year. In fact, in January, they raised, priority mail was from $6.95. And we're talking about like the base priority mail,
right.
Like the lightest package you could send with priority mail and the closest zone, because the further you send it, the further, the more zones you cross and the higher the price is. Yeah. But it's a bit, it basically started at $6.95, then they raised it to $7.02 in January, and now they're raising it again to, what did you say? It was like $7.40?
It's at $7.42 now.
Yeah. So that's almost a, 50-cent rate increase or close to it, 45 cents, something like that, since the beginning of the year. So, to be honest, if I'm just 100% honest, I'm not going to do a thing. I do free shipping on my products. I'm probably not going to do anything because I typically raise my prices when the buying frenzy starts anyway.
Sure.
Sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'll typically raise my prices a little bit, and it'll kind of make up for some of that. I mean, the big question is what happens, in January of 2021. Are they going to do, make this permanent, or they're saying it's a temporary thing now, but who knows what's going to happen. So I guess, time will tell.
Yeah, it leaves it kind of open-ended with the temporary thing. They could extend it and see where it goes. It'll be interesting, though. The rest of this article, which we don't necessarily have to dig into all of those, like internationally, the prices are going up more as well, which international shipping is already pretty expensive. So, like I said, for those listening, if you want to kind of dig into the minutia, we can link this in the show notes so that you can have access and kind of see for yourself what it all means if you are someone that's going to be shipping stuff yourself independently, seller fulfilled or anything like that. So something to certainly think about. Anything else, Travis, about this week's point of interest?
Not really. I think it kind of speaks for itself. It's a bummer, but I like I said before, I think it's probably necessary, and it's going to, help the post office. I know there's a lot of stuff in the media, or has been in the media, about them needing money and them being basically being subsidized by the government and all that stuff that we're not going to get into because this is not a political podcast.
Nope.
But
Nope.
I'm kind of glad that they're going to be able to have a little bit of extra revenue to potentially hire some more people and have a little less strain during this, unprecedented holiday season.
Oh, there it is. You used unprecedented.
That word.
Yeah, there's the buzzword that everyone likes to use.
2020's favorite word.
Yeah, unprecedented. I think if, like you said, if it means that they hire more people and lift the strain, that's a good thing for everybody involved. It might be a little more expensive, but if it means that things are delivered in a timely manner and there's less strain, then I think it's worth it. And I think for peace of mind. So, all right, well, that'll do it for this week's Point of Interest. Do we have an outro sound cue? Do we do outro sound cues?
No outro sound cue.
Okay,
no,
well,
just an intro.
Then here's 5 seconds of silence. All right, so we're going to move on. As awkward as possible. So no, listen, the main event this week is something that Travis and I actually recorded here in person. It was an interview with a gentleman named Ken Reil. Reil?
Ken Reil.
Ken Reil. We recorded with him about trademarking. Super awesome content, but we're basically cutting in an interview we already recorded. So what we're going to do is set the date to however many 3 weeks ago. Hop in the DeLorean, fire that baby up, and hope we land smack dab in the middle of that interview for all of you guys to listen and enjoy. So with that being said, let's fire up the DeLorean. Insert car sound cue here.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit.
All right, everybody, it is time for the main event of this episode, and I'm super excited about our guest and the content that he has to offer because, Travis, it's a subject that I'm curious to know more about because it is something that I don't know a whole lot about. So this is kind of like we are the best seats in the house to absorb the knowledge firsthand before we disseminate it to all of those listening. So why don't you introduce our guest for this main event?
Sure. Well, this guy is well known in the Facebook world when it comes to trademarking and licensing, and he's just an all-around wealth of knowledge. And like you said, we got the best seats in the house. Let's welcome to the show Ken Reil. Ken, great to have you on the show, man.
It's nice to be here. It's nice to talk to you guys again.
Yeah, man. To just get the ball rolling, why don't you give us a little intro? About yourself. Tell the audience who you are, and then we'll kind of get your pod journey after that.
Sure. Just a guy out of Vegas, getting my kids out of the house, so I'm starting to become an empty nester. My background was actually in science and the haz waste industry, heavy oil and gas and things like that up in Alberta, and made a transition in 2004. And bought a sign company down here in Las Vegas, and the rest is history. It led from signs to promoting businesses out on the street to being able to fulfill their merch needs, such as T-shirts and business cards and signage and window graphics and all that fun stuff. And it's just progressed to the point it is now.
Wow! So are you originally from Canada?
I am. I'm one of those crazy Canucks down here from Alberta.
That's awesome. So you say you do. You started in the sign business. That seems like a better transition into print on demand than science and oil.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a bit of a change. The ups and downs of the oil industry are something else to behold in themselves, and we see it in business, but oil and gas is affected quite a bit. So I was at a point where I was going to take a year and maybe start off my own consulting company in environmental resource management or something like that. And a buddy of mine asked me, he said, you want to move to Winnipeg? And I said, no, if anyone's been to Winnipeg, Canada. And he says, well, we've actually got two options. I've partnered up. It was a good friend of mine. He says, I partnered up with this franchise company doing signage. And he says, would you want to move to Fort Worth, Texas or Las Vegas? I said, well, maybe I'll go take a look. So I did take a look at Las Vegas, and there was a guy that had started out here and was kind of floundering. And so it was a good opportunity to jump in. So I packed up and moved to Las Vegas with the family and took over a sign rental company down here on the streets of Vegas. And I had some background as far as being technologically adept. I mean, I build my own computers, and I was a bit of a nerd on the internet at night. Not that there was much of an internet at 2004, but I had some ability with things like Photoshop. I'd already played with them and Illustrator the early days, and so the transition, it was something that was interesting. So I knew very little about the sign industry. I didn't know how a plotter worked. I didn't know how things went up on a window. I didn't know about cut vinyl. But I learned all those things, and by the time the P.O.D. industry started to come around, which would have been, 2000, 2012-ish is when it started to kind of come. I was already ready and set that it wasn't a hard transition to break into.
Yeah. So in 2012, I mean, obviously your sign company's still rocking and rolling. Were you getting into P.O.D that early with like vinyl cutting and doing some print on demand, maybe T-shirts or other things, or did that come later?
It kind of transitioned. It was kind of weird because as you're dealing with customers in the sign industry, either you're focused, like, say, on window signage, and mine was actually a rental sign company, so it was a changeable sign on the street. But very quickly, you get customers that say, hey, can you do T-shirts for me? Can you do business cards for me? Can you wrap my car? Can you do the tint on my car? Things like that. And I actually branched out into decorative window tint for the fronts of businesses. So to give you a visual perspective, I could take your front windows and do something as extravagant as mimicking stained glass with window tint, with colored window tint on the front of businesses. So as I'm doing this, you can do T-shirts and all these. So I got in with, wholesale screen printers, and I knew how to fulfill a 1,000 shirt order with a local high school. I knew how to lay out the design. I knew how to get it in. I had the wholesale apparel company set up and all those things. So it was just business as usual. And one night I was sitting around and I started to get into some of the logo design companies. If you've seen them, like 99 Designs and I got to think of some of the other. I was in on some of these design contests, and I was earning a bit of money doing logo design contests. And of course, that led on to, oh, wait a minute, I could go put up shirts on something like Teespring. And I started to play around with Teespring on the early days and playing around with Facebook. And there's a few of the old timers in the P.O.D. Groups, even for merch, that remember the heyday of Teespring in 2014, 2013. And that was the real start into it. So it was more of a hobby on the side.
Okay. And then I know you kind of got into merch by Amazon pretty early. And was that just kind of a natural outgrowth of what you were already doing with Teespring?
Yeah, it was. I found it as that was a very new thing where you would actually put up your design and have somebody else, wow, let's list this, and sales come in and get royalties. So Teespring was the first foray into that, but of course Teespring didn't have the kind of organic reach that Amazon did. So right. I got in right at the beginning in 2015. I think, Travis, you've probably heard the story. I didn't do much with it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Sign up, got accepted. Back in the days where there's no tier, there's no limits. You've got all the different colors of shirts you can list on. And I'll be honest, I tried to upload a shirt, and I'd done this on other platforms, and it comes back as an error, and I was frustrated. I keep trying to upload, and I was bitching out at the support saying your platform doesn't work, and I give it up on merch. I'm like, you can't upload to the stupid platform. And finally, somebody in support emailed me back, and he says, okay, are you sure you've got the exact size image? And I'm saying, of course I'm sure. I know what I'm doing here. He said, well, no, it's got to be the exact pixel. And I can't believe this guy took the time to go back and forth with me. So I checked the pixels, and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's off by 1 pixel, and you're rejecting my design. And it was. And I found a little quirk. I use Corel Draw quite a bit, and I found a quirk that if you save your design off the sign, the center image, it adds a pixel for some reason. So I changed that and got the shirt up, right? I'm like, oh, okay. So I put a couple up, thought nothing of it, and I come back I think it was December of 15. I get $12 or $13 deposited to my bank account. And I'm like, why is Amazon paying me $12? Oh, I'd sold a shirt or two, right?
Yeah.
So I put a couple more up, and the next month, I don't know, I made $50. And a month later, I put a few more, I made $100. And then I said, wait a minute, this is kind of cool. And I think by March or April of 2016, I don't know, I was making $1,000 or $2,000 a month. And I said, wow, I got to take this serious. This is just easy money.
Right. Yeah. So are you still currently running your sign shop, or have you transitioned fully into the print on demand world?
Pretty much full-time print on demand. I still do the sign stuff on the side. However, that's kind of taken a back seat. do I want to lug a sign around at 110 degree weather in Vegas, or would I rather sit in an air-conditioned building and make money on shirts all day?
Right. That makes a lot of sense, man. So, so I remember, I don't know, a few years ago, I had not really, so I kind of got into merch early, but like you, kind of didn't really push the pedal to the metal for a while. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, this is really getting good. And I started seeing the saturation happen and slowly backed off. I moved into more like sublimating coffee mugs and all that stuff. And, you know, I know we've talked a little bit about that, but I forgot where I was going. Oh, I was going to say, for you kind of just kind of slow and steady wins the race. Is that fair to say for your like merch by Amazon experience? And then my secondarily, like where do the other channels that you're on kind of rank as far as percentage of monthly royalty or income, or however you want to, you know, however they pay you, whatever the platform is?
Oh, you mean like other P.O.D. platforms?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's interesting in that, because I look back on the early days of merch. You go back to 2016. I mean, you could throw up the worst looking birthday shirt for 40th birthday and sell it. I mean, anybody that was there in the early days, I mean, you could throw anything on there and it would sell. And then, of course, as it got competition, as you were saying about saturation, yeah, it became harder and harder. And as of today, unless you're ready to go put up 20,000 birthday shirts, I mean, I just wouldn't even touch the birthday shirt niche. It's just too much work. It's too much tracking, and it's not really where I wanted to be anyway. But in the early days, that stuff was easy money. But sure. the people I found in 2016, I saw some people do this. They were just cranking out amazing numbers, and I knew some of the content they were putting up, and I looked at it and said, you know, it's kind of like they're riding the wave and in front of some waves that are behind them, and very quickly those other waves are going to overtake them. And we've seen that. I mean, we've seen numerous people disappear that were just killing it on numbers, and now they're nowhere because they had no design ability. They had no ability to actually figure out what sells in the market or make it attractive to the market. And as you talked about saturation, even today, our niche is saturated. Yeah, the boring ones are. But there's all kinds of stuff you can do. And that kind of ties into some of the things we were talking about. You don't have to be like the crowd. You don't have to be what everybody else is being to make money on these platforms. And overall platforms, merch by Amazon is more than easily 90% of what I do when it comes to print on demand. It's just the easiest for me. It's a great platform. I've developed some pretty good contacts with, you know, merch staff and things like that. And I just find it fun. Like, I've told people that print on demand and merch by Amazon is like a hobby to me. So think of your hobbies, like how much time could you spend on a hobby? And to me, it's just fun. So why not do it? Why, you know, it doesn't frustrate me, and I love doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ken, one of the other things that I know that you are knowledgeable in is trademarks and licensing, and I know you have a Facebook group that kind of specializes. Is it the Trademark Watchdogs? Is that correct? With the name of your group, your Facebook group?
Trademark Watchdogs. I think it's up to about getting close to 14,000 people.
Wow. Yeah, I know. I'm a member. I see some stuff pop in, and you know, someone's trying to trademark "good dog" or "good boy" or something like that,
or the word beer.
Yeah, or the word beer. Someone's trying to trademark beer. So. Tell us, you know, what usually comes first, thinking about it linearly, licensing or trademarking? Because this is an area that I myself, I want to know more. I don't know a whole lot, and I know those listening are probably very interested in knowing the ins and outs of both. So, what would you say comes first, licensing or trademarking?
I'd say it looks like a fishing net. It's completely intertwined. Trademarking, licensing. There is no straight path on either, and there's all kinds of intricacies on how each one works.
So what would you say are the steps to obtaining a license? Like my company currently has a print partner that has licensing with Capcom and Street Fighter and New Japan Pro Wrestling and WWE and that kind of stuff. So we fulfill all that stuff.
What are the steps to obtain a license from a company like that?
Well, I think a company like that can be very tough because now you're really shooting for the moon on you're naming off Capcom and maybe Disney or Marvel or Rick and Morty. Yeah, now you're shooting for big guns, right? So I think people need to back it up and take a look at licensing. Like the first thing you got to do is, have you read about licensing? Do you even know what it is, right? And most people that have come to me and said, well, I want to get into licensing. I say, well, what is licensing? Well, I'm not sure. Well, Google's your friend. It takes a lot of work, and it's taken me 4 or 5 years to learn a lot of things going to expos, and the first thing you're going to learn is you got to get the door slammed on your face.
You have to learn to hear no and be okay with it.
Yeah, and you know what? You're never going to get the answer no unless you ask the question, right?
Absolutely. It's just like sales. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and that's what licensing is about. And I can remember one licensing expo, the best phrase that has always stuck out to me about the definition of licensing is 2 sales parties bullshitting each other to the middle. And it really is, because both of you are salesmen. You're both trying to pitch something, and you're both trying to get the best for your company, and you've got to find some place in the middle to meet where that is functional for the two of you.
Yeah.
Now, licensing. One thing about licensing, anything can be licensed. And I think too often people think they need to shoot for the moon, and they forget that anything can be licensed, right down to your niece's art that she's really good at. The local junior trade school that's got a digital art class. Have you talked to some of those artists? Have you gone online to some of these little art type collectives and seen if people are interested in licensing their art? I mean, anything that is out there can be licensed. It's about somebody having a product and you paying a royalty for that product to go promote it.
Do you find that and I'm totally a novice at this stuff, but I'm just curious. Do you find that the royalty that gets paid is somehow? I mean, it's basically like if it is your niece's art or the local college's art class versus a Capcom, the royalty or the royalty percentages obviously would reflect that. Is it? Give us some ideas of what you would maybe as a content or like a content creator would want to get from, if I have an awesome brand, what am I trying to get from a company that wants to license my stuff? What's a good percentage of whatever? How does that work?
Well, see, that's a real sliding scale. And when I first started digging into licensing, it kind of opened my eyes to what was going on. First of all, the big brand, like Star Wars, what do you think you would pay at a royalty for Star Wars?
A lot.
Well, what percentage would you guys think?
Gosh.
If you sold a T-shirt, let's say you could get Star Wars, which is pretty tough. So sold a T-shirt, what do you think you would pay as a percentage of the gross revenue for that T-shirt?
Yeah, that was going to be my first question. Are we talking about gross or are we talking about actual profits? So
a lot of times we're talking gross.
So most of the time licensing deals are based on the gross of the product. Is that correct?
Yes, but that is changing too.
Okay.
Fishing net.
It's a fishing net. Yeah, it always changes.
but print on demand is changing that, right?
Probably 25%, 30% of gross.
No, you're way high.
See, you're exposing me in front of my audience, Ken. Come on, bro.
Come on down to the 5 to 15% range.
Really? Wow.
But then consider that Star Wars, you're probably going to pay $500,000 guarantee just to get the license.
Okay.
Sure. There's a lot of investment then, right?
When you're dealing with some of these big brands, here's the strength they have. They have the strength of a big brand. They have an audience. The moment you put up a new design for their product, it's going to sell, right? Yeah. And they know that. Now, the little artist down in, maybe your niece that's working at a digital art school that all of a sudden you can license her really cool art that nobody knows about. Yeah, you may go in and say, hey, I'm going to move the dial here and pay you 20 or 30% to get your art, and I'm going to have to do a lot of work to push it. But maybe the payout is going to be in a different perspective. Now, print on demand brings a big tool to the toolbox as well, because all of a sudden you don't have inventory.
Right.
And if you go to some of these licensing expos over the last couple of years, you've learned that. I remember 3 years ago going to an expo. None of the companies knew about print on demand. I mean, nobody knew about Merch by Amazon, and they had no concept of listing a product for free. The first question was, how much inventory do you expect to hold? What kind of a sales marketing plan do you have? How much are you going to spend on marketing? How much are you going to spend on bricks and mortar? And I'm like, nothing. I'm going to do the designs. We're going to put them up. And it kind of gets the principle of Walmart, right? You ever see the T-shirt wall at Walmart with all the graphic tees, right? How long do you think it takes to get one of those shirts up on the wall?
Pretty long, I would think.
6-12 monts, right? You got to go through design approvals. You got to go through licensing approvals. You got to go through actually getting, we got to get the containers from China to supply all the Walmarts. And by the time it's up on the wall, they already know a pretty good idea how many are going to sell, right? Versus, so do you see 1,000 different Star Wars designs up on the wall of Walmart? No. Merch, how many designs do you see on the wall of merch for Star Wars? 100.
On merch? Yeah, you hardly see any.
No, but with merch, there's no cost. Like, if a design doesn't sell, there's no cost behind it. It's kind of, P.O.D. is a testing field, and that's radically changing licensing. And it actually, for us, it may make licensing a little harder, because the big companies know they can get in on some of these print on demand or digital printers and do keep the royalty, right? Do it themselves.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So are you seeing more of that then? Like, these large brands basically just creating their own fulfillment facilities, or partnering with fulfillment facilities with super, super low royalty, if any type of royalty or agreement exists, just maybe a percentage of, they're just paying for the product? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, or they're partnering with somebody like a Merch by Amazon or a Redbubble fan art or something like that, right? They're partnering with them and working directly with a brand manager with their brand, right? Now, certainly they have some kind of a deal worked out to make it effective. But do you think that Star Wars is going to go hand out licensing for another 10 or 100 people that are on the Merch by Amazon platform to compete with them? No, it makes no sense, right? There's just no chance.
Yeah, they get their call picked up when they call someone at Amazon Merch, and can just deal with the platform itself, is what you're saying.
See, I've got some good buddies that started a little rock band that are pretty famous now, and I've tried to explain to them Merch by Amazon, and they can't get it through their head that things are free. That little band I grew up with was Nickelback, and I don't care if you hate their music or not. I talk to them, and I'm trying to explain this to them, and they can't get it through their head. Like nothing is free, and you still see a lot of brands out there right now that say, "Well, there's no way you're doing this for free per se, and there's no way you're doing it without inventory."
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, that's funny because my company, What4 Pro, we do a lot of partnering with influencers, TikTok influencers, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. But that is always the number one question after we have a conversation is, so where's the bullshit? You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe that this is free, and I think you're lying to me, and you're going to take a chunk of my profits. So that's interesting to me to hear you say that, because that's the number one question I always hear. That's the big hurdle. Where's the bullshit?
Yep. Nothing's free.
Yeah.
Well, let's transition to the second part of your expertise, because we probably should have done a whole show on licensing, but we do want to talk about trademarking, because obviously your Facebook group really has kind of led the what is the word that I'm saying?
Led the way.
Led the way in trying to like expose some of these people that are manipulating the trademark process. And so can you talk to us a little bit about how someone would actually manipulate the process and what people like you and me that are actually content creators can do to combat that?
Boy, there's a big bag of worms.
Just do it in like 5 minutes, please.
Okay. What has occurred is, and this is kind of a new thing with trademark bullies. As print on demand came in, the access to having somebody that would print your product and get it out to the customer and you get a royalty became very easy. The barrier came down, right? So now the barrier in competition is competitors always try and find some barrier to their competitors to knock them back on something that's easy. And what was found was, wait a minute, if I trademark one of these phrases that's becoming popular, these platforms I could go to and say, I have the trademark, I'm exercising my rights, take them down. And in the early days, they hadn't quite figured this out. But what they have figured out now is these platforms are not legally going to pull their lawyer out and support their content creators because it's not, and I agree, it's not their problem. Mm-hmm. So if company A comes with a trademark to say Merch by Amazon and says, I own the registration on this trademark, take down all your listings. Merch by Amazon is just going to put their hands in the air and say, no problem, we're not messing with it. We'll let you deal with the creators that have content. And then all the creators, all their content comes down. And they all complain because they're saying, why is this guy taking me down? Now, here's the caveat that's going on, is what takedown that person just used on Merch by Amazon in the real world wouldn't stand up in a court of law. And even if you talk to the USPTO and ask them and say, well, this guy took me down for this reason for ornamental use on a T-shirt, they'll right away tell you, well, that's not how trademark functions. And, you should get your lawyer to go after him. The problem that we have is so many people have created a business based on thousands of one-off shirts, right? So your one shirt with the phrase of, I don't know, say dogs, right, makes you 10 sales a month. And when you do that over the course of 1,000 shirts, you make a pretty good living for yourself. But if you lose those 10 shirts, are you going to go hire a lawyer for $600 an hour to go after this guy?
Right. When you make $600 a year in royalties.
Right, on that one shirt. Are you going to go blow all your money for all your other shirt sales on this one shirt to protect it? And this became a real problem. These bullies have figured out that unless their bluff is called, nobody's going to police them in the network. Nobody's going to police them in the marketplace. Because ultimately the trademark comes down to you and them and him defending his trademark. Yeah. So we get a real problem now where the next step is, oh, great, I figured out how I can scoop the system here. I'm going to go trademark every phrase I can think of, or I'm going to find a phrase that's popular and go try and trademark it. And it's only a matter of months, and then people are saying, oh, no, I just lost my shirts because this guy got a trademark, even though that's not the way trademark functions. So it's a real merry-go-round of confusion that's going on. And one night I was just sitting there, and I'd read about letters of protest. I'm like, wait a minute, can this be used? It's a free function to file a protest and file evidence to stop these applications. And the first one I put in was Occupy Mars, right? Because some guy was trying to go after it, and I had no clue what I was doing. I just grabbed some screenshots, I uploaded it. The next thing you know, your letter of protest was accepted. Wow. And it killed the mark. It killed not the mark, but it killed the application, right? And that was the start of Trademark Watchdogs, was just one night saying enough's enough. Each one of us individually is not enough to fight these trademarks, but can we do it as a group? Can we have some kind of effect as a group? And we really haven't come to a fruition where people are stepping up to the bat, per se, and saying, hey, let's get 100 of us together and go sue this guy. People still are kind of lenient and not wanting to go do that, but at least we've got people together to say this is a problem.
Yeah, and then you have the other side of the problem where the content creators that are getting, these takedowns by these trademark bullies. I've heard stories, and I know you've probably heard way more. Their Merch by Amazon accounts are in jeopardy now because they're publishing, quote, copywritten material, right, or trademarked material, and so then all of a sudden their whole livelihood goes out the door because of these bullies. Have you heard a lot of stories like that?
No, I'm going to put you on your feet, your butt on that one.
Really?
That is a fallacy. And
really?
I'm going to tell you why.
You're saying Merch by Amazon isn't suspending accounts based on trademarks?
No. Not the trademarks we're talking about. There's two categories of trademark that I view. Star Wars Disney is a trademark. Okay. You want to go cross that line and you'll get terminated, right? Like you want to go use the Nike trademark on t-shirts, you're going to get terminated. Yeah. But you go and get the trademark that's been registered for grandma loves a coffee and a smoke on a Saturday night is trademark phrase. And this guy comes on to Merch and issues a takedown and Merch takes down 1,000 shirts. Nobody's getting terminated. Okay. Nobody. And I've talked to Merch staff on this. I mean, they're not going to open up to what their procedures are, but they've pretty much said, when we do these massive sweeps that somebody came in with the word dogs drink beer and everybody lost their shirt, like hot sauce. Remember hot sauce? Hot sauce hit and everybody's hot sauce shirts came down. There's nobody got terminated. Now, here's what gets you terminated. The idiot that wants to then get a takedown for hot sauce and go put it up again and push, right? Like, and get 100 rejections for hot sauce and say, or takes the keywords for hot sauce out of his listings and sneaks them by. That's the guy getting terminated. These frivolous trademarks are more a drain on our financial well-being than it is any kind of a concern that you're going to lose your account. I don't even consider the sweep of a hot sauce trademark as really a red mark on my account. It's just something that happens and Merch is washing their hands of. But if you're dumb and want to try and push the system, or the other side of it is, if you show a complete neglect to continue to put stuff up without showing that you're trying to work the system, like you're trying to check what's trademarked and not put that up, if you just throw stuff up and show complete disregard for that, that's the other type of person that gets terminated.
Okay, so what you're saying, and what I hear you saying, is that there's actually a department in Amazon that actually, there's real people that actually understand the plight of the sellers. Yeah. Because I mean, I'm an old FBA guy, and so there's and I'm in all the groups, and you've seen it all. I mean, there's every day Amazon is getting slammed in another group because they are uncaring, unfeeling, whatever adjectives you want to use. But you're saying that your contacts are sharing with you that unless you're trying to, like you say, Disney or Nike or some of the big guys that already have like established brands and established trademarks, if someone comes in later and you get a takedown, that's not necessarily going to endanger your. No. Okay. It's will. I think we're all on the other side of it. I think a lot of us are pretty scared of Amazon. Wouldn't you say, Josiah?
I would agree. I guess
it comes down to two things. I think it comes down to willful infringement or complete disregard. Those are the two things that will get you in trouble. And I agree with you. Amazon's a tough one to try and talk to. And I think in the Merch by Amazon ecosphere, it's kind of lucky that, over the last 3 years, I've been able to have some communication. I know Chris Green has had some. I think Neil Lassen has some contact too. And it's not that it's pick up the phone and, you need to answer this question. It's just kind of a community, I guess, communication type of a thing. And I mean, Amazon has no emotion, right? We all know that. They have no emotion. Right. But they do, in Merch by Amazon, understand the plight that we're going through. There's just not a lot they can do for it. They can't just come out and say, okay, we're going to take on our attorney team and go after these trademark trolls, because it's not their place.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So.
So we've been talking a lot about Merch by Amazon. But obviously there's the Teesprings, the TeePublics, the Redbubbles, all these other. Are you seeing similar, does it make a difference which channel you're kind of dealing with this on? And obviously you probably don't have the same contacts at these other print-on-demand companies that you do at Merch by Amazon, but have you seen a difference in the way they handle some of these things?
Some of them, yes. I think Etsy is probably the one that kind of mystifies me a bit, because I have seen people lose accounts or seem to get real suspensions over really stupid trademark takedowns. Almost like, do you guys not understand what's going on here? My dog drinks beer on a summer night as a trademark is not something that's going to get you sued, and this guy is playing you. And to go after it. And KDP seems to be maybe one of the other ones that is just, they just kind of show a little disregard for, whatever the content is that's being taken down. But most of them are pretty good. I mean, Redbubble, TeePublic, Teespring, I mean, they get it. But when you start crossing heavy infringement, you're going to get into trouble, and that's where you start losing your account.
Yeah. So as we're talking here, I just, on the flip side of the coin, as a trademark bully, what is the incentive, financial or otherwise, to squat on these trademarks arbitrarily, like my dog drinks beer? What's the motivation for someone to go trademark that, and what is the compensation if they do and they flag someone? What's the payoff other than just being a massive troll?
Monopoly. Let's use the phrase, the best example is Mama Bear. Everybody knows the phrase Mama Bear. It's on millions of T-shirts. For heaven's sakes, you can go to the local golf course and they're going to have a Mama Bear shirt.
Sure.
You can go to any Target, Walmart, Kohl's, and say you're going to find Mama Bear at the local airport, right? Well, some lady comes in and says, "Oh, well, Mama Bear, I made this design. It's mine. I'm the creator." Yeah, well, Goldilocks and the Three Bears would argue with you on that one. But this is a prime example of somebody that's got it in their head. And I'll use this as an example. They first went to the USPTO and filed for a trademark using their design, which I have no problem with. So they had their Mama Bear design. They were going to trademark it. That's fine because that only protects that design, right? Mm-hmm. But then they canceled the application and resubmitted for the word mark, meaning I own the words Mama Bear. Mm-hmm. And that's where it became wrong because what happened was a step of progression of greed. They saw what they could capture with the one mark, but then they said, holy smokes, look how many Mama Bear shirts are out there. Look how much apparel is out there. If I capture that one word and take everybody down, what's it worth? Mm-hmm. Millions.
Sure.
Right. And that's where the trademark troll is seeing, if I can take the word hot sauce and kill everybody's design across Amazon, and not so much, they won't go after FBA because they know the FBA guy is going to come back and say, up yours. But the Merch by Amazon guy, they know they can play this game with these PODs, and they say, if I can wipe out these PODs for hot sauce, I'm the only one allowed to put up shirts. I'm the only one that makes sales on those.
Right. Okay.
That's the incentive.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the natural progression is if you get the word mark on Mama Bear and you take everyone else out and your shirts are the only ones with the words Mama Bear on it, then you are the one that then capitalizes on the move that you made to monopolize that trademark or word mark.
And then you can also send a letter to Walmart and Target and the local golf course.
But they won't. That's the case. Right. If you were to then fight them in court because of a takedown, they would lose. I guarantee. I've talked to numerous attorneys. Guarantee they would lose because the only thing they're really doing with the trademark is throwing it as an ornamental use on the front of a T-shirt, which you can't even trademark ornamental use. Right? That's not the way the brand functions. And so if you were to take them to court, they would lose. And this is going back to what I was saying before. Nobody wants to take them to court and spend the money. So the bully is sitting there with the ball saying, challenge me, go talk to the teacher. You're going to be a tattletale for the rest of your time in school, right? Like that's probably the pretty good analogy. The bully has the ball and says, you go tell the teacher, and everybody knows you're the tattletale. Right. So until you're brave enough to go sue these guys and beat them in court, nothing will change.
So you said, so you find them in court, you guarantee they'll lose because ornamental trademark on the front of a shirt isn't how the brand works. So what then is trademarkable? Because this is a question that I get a lot, and to me it seems like kind of a gray area. So what is trademarkable for someone? What is something that is safe to
specifically in the print on demand industry?
Yeah, specifically print on demand.
Well, your brand. your brand. I mean, it's no different on Amazon. Go trademark your brand and get brand registration so these guys can't throw a bunch of products under your brand. It's no different on Merch by Amazon. If your company's name is Wicked T-shirts or whatever it is, or Crazy Designs, go trademark your company and put your content under that. And when the copycat tries to copy your design, your keywords, your brand, and everything and throw it up, it blocks them. It stops them, right? But to go trademark these phrases is wrong, because I'll go back to Mama Bear as an example. She's trying to go after the word Mama Bear, but this whole time has not even trademarked her own company name.
Right.
Right? Like, what really is your brand? You know, and that's what you got to ask yourself. I have no problem with going after your brand and trademarking. And I'll bring this up. I took some flack for a brand that I just finished the trademark on it. I've got the registration. And it's Naked Banana, right? And Reddit just loved to go after me on this one, because they're like, see, Ken's running this trademark group, and here he is, you know, in the back rooms trademarking phrases and, you know, doing exactly what he's fighting for. I'm like, no. I said, no, that's the brand I want to build. I'm going to put my products under Naked Banana. Yeah, but it's a popular meme. Yeah, but it has nothing to do with Naked Bananas. My brand is not about 1,000 shirts with stripping bananas. I mean, you could see maybe I've got licensed Einstein or licensed Sesame Street shirts like that. That's going to go under my brand. The brand is the function. The trademark is the function of the brand. It's not just because the name is Naked Banana doesn't mean I'm going to go after your stripping banana shirts that are on merch. It's not the way trademark functions. And people got to get it through their head. They have to understand what trademark and brand is about. And that's where this circles together, where you asked me about what's the linear line between licensing and trademark. Well, it's mixed together as a net. And when you start to understand, you trademark your brand, you build a brand, you start building the products under that brand, and you start branching out and licensing stuff into your brand. And then you have protection under your brand.
That really does. That brings it all together. We're getting pretty long on this, but I want to ask you one more question, unless Josiah has more. But like, so for the typical Merch by Amazon, print on demand, you know, content creator, or they're doing it on Redbubble or Teespring or whatever, what do they need to do to make sure their shirts or their content doesn't get flagged, and they don't, you know, get a rejection when they try to, you know, put out their content on these different platforms? What are the steps that they need to take to make this will kind of, you know, it's kind of brass tacks for like a lot of our listeners that are actually doing the content. What do they need to do to make sure they don't get flagged as a copyright or trademark infringer?
Create original content. I mean, that's the easiest way to sleep at night.
5 minute thing was earlier. You need a better answer, a longer answer. Not a better, just a longer answer, Ken. Just a little bit
for us.
No, but come at me, bro, on that one, right? Like, create original content and identify who your audience is, and you'll get sales and sleep at night. But if you're gonna play the game of searching BSRs and searching what the other guy is selling, you're going to fall into these pitfalls. I mean, somebody else obviously had the idea, and now you're going to ride the idea. Well, sometimes you cross lines then, right? Like, you take a design that's already selling and say, oh, I'm going to make that even better. When, you know, the whole improve cat type thing. And all of a sudden, now you set yourself up for the potential that you may cross a line, right? And that's why I always say it's better if you're thinking. I like to identify the audience first, and I'll back it up even further. Me personally, I would only rather design what I enjoy. Right? Like, what do I have something that I'm not just going to go make crocheting shirts, because it would make me scratch my eyeballs out. I'm going to go do something that I enjoy, right? That I'm good at. And then I'm going to take it to the step and identify the audience. Who's buying this? Where are they going to buy it? And how are they going to buy it? And then create original content. And I think that separates some people that do very well and start to build a very good brand and a very good stable passive income source versus the people that are in the constant rat race to keep up with what the current BSR sellers are.
Yeah. No, that's excellent advice. And here I thought you were going to say go to, to uspto.gov and search out the test trademark, word search and all that. Well, silly me. You went way beyond that, Ken.
Yeah. No, but here, let me tell you. This is the ironic part. I run that group, and I spend hundreds of hours running the group and helping out with people like Dave Kadoff and Brenda and Debbie and Nash. I mean, the list is long, the Rondas of the world. And I mean, I can't thank everybody, but the thing is, I can't think of the last time I truly checked for a trademark on my stuff.
Wow.
Because I don't worry about it, because I know my content, it's all tied together. I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, is eating dogs and drinking coffee while I jet ski, is that trademarked? I'm just not worried about it. So the ironic thing is everything I'm doing on that trademark site has very little impact on my business. Mm-hmm. But I feel strong enough because it started off with Mama Bear that I did impact my business if that went through, that I stick with it. But I've changed how I do my P.O.D. business, that it's really not a big deal to me anymore. And I sleep great at night because I don't worry about, oh no, somebody trademarked this and my stuff's going to come down. And that's where I also tell people on rejections in that nature, as we talked about earlier, sleep at night. Stop worrying and stop sweating about, did somebody trademark this new phrase and 10 of my shirts got yanked and I got 10 rejections and now I'm going to lose my account. It's not the way it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So how would you say, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but when you are exploring a niche or, like you said, figuring out who's going to buy this shirt, how do you kind of identify what is trending, or do you just go based off of what you're interested in and that's what you produce as designs based on your own interests and just make original content so you're not worried about the rejections? Or how do you identify what streams you kind of want to create content for to attract people to your listings?
I am down now, whittled down to what I'm interested in.
Okay.
If I'm not interested in, I'm probably not going to pursue it. I'm also not interested in playing the 1307 to 1507 rat race price game. It's just not worth my time. I mean, if I got to sell my shirts for $15 and I have to sell 100 times more shirts, I just don't want to be there. I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
I would much rather have products that are licensed that I'm putting up for $24.99 a shirt, making a $10 royalty and splitting off $3 to somebody, than messing around with 1307 trying to get some reviews and boost it.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Makes sense.
Cool, man. Well, like I said, I think we could probably keep talking for hours on this stuff. I mean, you've been living it, man. I mean, it's funny. You were talking about how you don't even worry about trademark really that much anymore, but yet you run this awesome Facebook group that helps a lot of people and protects a lot of people, and even people that aren't even doing the same business model. Like people that are doing the kind of looking for the BSR, and you're helping them, and so that's pretty awesome, man. We really we appreciate your hard work. So it's the Facebook group is Merch Watchdogs. Is that correct?
Trademark Watchdogs.
Trademark Watchdogs. So guys, go to Trademark Watchdogs, and there's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
Get in on some of the, what are they called? What are the letters of protest? LOPs, I think.
Yeah, LOPs, letter of protest, and stay in tune with it because we have a very small percentage of people that actually do the work. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of strain. And here's the thing. We might have 50 people that actually do something. I think we have about 200 people that pay into the Patreon like $2 or $5 a month. I think we get $800 or $1,000 a month, which barely covers, legal counsel, a bit of a kitty so that if we get sued as a group, it's not coming out of our pockets. But you know what? We got 14,000 people. If I only had 1,000 people in that group filing one letter of protest a month, the whole industry would be changed. But we just can't get people to do it.
And you've got all of the instructions on how to file those in your Facebook group, don't you?
Yeah, units, videos. I mean, there's everything you need to figure it out. And if you don't know, tag a question to me or Dave or one of the admins, and all of a sudden they'll come in and, see, it only takes you 15 minutes. A letter of protest should take you about 15 minutes to do.
Wow, awesome. Well, there you go, guys. For those of you listening, go check out Trademark Watchdogs and take action, because as Ken said, if enough of us actually do the work, we can change the industry in regards to these trademark bullies and trolls that are out there. Yeah. Is that the best way for people to reach you too, Ken? If they have a question about something they heard on this episode, is that Facebook group the best way to contact you to kind of follow up on any other information they might need or questions?
Yeah, just hit me up with a post in the Watchdogs or message. I try and keep up on my Facebook Messenger, but it gets a little swamped at times. But I'll try and keep up on it. If you sent me a message and I haven't got back to you, it's probably gotten buried in new requests or something like that. Just tag me in a post somewhere.
Awesome. Well, Ken, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to chat with us. I know for Travis and myself, it was definitely rewarding. There's lots of knowledge, and we probably have more questions, and we might have you back on.
We got taken to school.
We did. When I thought you would zig, you zagged, and I enjoyed it. So we'll have to have follow-up episodes and then follow the zag trails because I have questions. But thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to following up very soon.
Thank you very much for having me on, guys.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're going to build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Well, there you have it, folks. We're back in present time to what we're now. But, man, that content was mind-blowing. The knowledge he has in an arena that tends to be so, like, I don't know. To me, it's always felt kind of like there's lots of gray areas, but he seems to have some advice to kind of navigate those weird spaces. So I loved the interview, and I was super glad that we got to be kind of front seat, for all of that knowledge.
There's a ton of golden nuggets in there, and can really set somebody on a good path, to protect themselves against a lot of the potholes and the landmines, frankly, that are out there right. in the print on demand world. So super glad that Ken came on, and we were taken to school a little bit. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something that since that interview, I have looked into and trying to pursue specifically easy for me to say, the licensing end of things.
I think you meant Atlantically.
Oh, yeah. No, I meant Gulf Coastally.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's a debate for another episode on another spinoff podcast. So, no, I'm super excited to learn more about it. And, again, thanks to Ken Reil for coming on the show. And thanks to you guys for listening. And, as always, if you have a question, you can get at me and Travis. Email us at info@printondemandcast. You can follow us on Facebook, Print on Demand Cast. Printondemandcast.com is where you can find the show and the episodes and ask us all the questions you have. And if you can, we'd be super grateful if you leave that 5-star review on iTunes. Helps the algorithms, helps us get in front of other people that could use this knowledge. So if you find this information valuable, if you find the two of us even mildly entertaining, a 5-star review would be greatly, greatly appreciated. So with that, we're going to put a bow on it. Travis, anything else before we wrap this thing up?
Nope. Just appreciative of all the listeners.
All right. We'll see you all next week.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next week.